didn't expect. It didn't feel extreme or dramatic the way many people imagine fasting to be. Instead, it felt subtle, almost like a quiet shift happening behind the scenes. In the first few hours, nothing seemed different on the surface, but internally, the body was already adjusting. This is because the human body is metabolically flexible, meaning it can switch between different energy sources depending on availability. According to trusted institutions like Harvard Health and the National Institutes of Health, NIH, the body is designed to handle short periods without food by relying on stored energy, especially glycogen in the liver. This is a normal physiological process, not an emergency state, although many people assume hunger signals mean something is wrong. In reality, hunger is often influenced by routine, hormones like ghrelin, and even environmental cues such as time of day or habit patterns. As the hours pass, the body begins transitioning from using immediate glucose to tapping into stored energy, and this is where things start to feel different. Many people expect energy crashes right away, but that doesn't usually happen in the early stage. Instead, energy often remains stable because the body still has access to circulating glucose and stored glycogen. The Mayo Clinic and NHS explain that during this period, insulin levels gradually begin to drop, which signals the body to prepare for using alternative energy sources. This is a natural and gradual shift, not an abrupt change. Understanding this helps reduce anxiety around fasting because it shows that the body is not shutting down, but rather adapting in a controlled way. A common mistake people make during this stage is reacting too quickly to mild hunger. They might feel the urge to snack simply because they're used to eating at certain times, not because their body truly needs fuel. Research discussed in sources like PubMed highlights that hunger often comes in waves and can pass if not immediately acted upon. Instead of panicking, a more helpful approach is to observe these signals calmly, stay hydrated, and continue with normal daily activities. Hydration is especially important because sometimes what feels like hunger is actually mild dehydration. Drinking water can help stabilize how you feel and support overall body function during this period. Another important factor is mindset. When someone expects discomfort or weakness, they are more likely to interpret normal bodily signals as negative. However, when approached with awareness and understanding, the experience often feels manageable and even insightful. The World Health Organization, WHO, and Cleveland Clinic both emphasize the importance of balanced, individualized approaches to nutrition, meaning that while short fasting periods may be tolerated by some people, they are not universally suitable for everyone. This is why it's essential to view this kind of experience as informational rather than prescriptive. It's not about pushing limits, but about observing how the body responds. There is also a psychological layer to this experience. Food is deeply connected to routine, comfort, and social behavior. So removing it even temporarily can reveal how often eating is driven by habit rather than physiological need. This awareness can be valuable for building a more mindful relationship with food. Instead of eating automatically, people can start recognizing true hunger versus emotional or habitual eating patterns. This doesn't mean restricting food long-term, but rather understanding the signals more clearly. It's important to include a safety perspective here as well. While short fasting periods are generally discussed as manageable for healthy individuals in sources like Harvard Health and the NIH, they are not appropriate for everyone. People with certain medical conditions, those taking specific medications, or individuals with a history of disordered eating should avoid fasting unless guided by a qualified professional. This ensures that the approach remains safe and aligned with personal health needs. Overall, those first few hours reveal something simple but powerful. The body is constantly adapting, often quietly and efficiently, even when we're not aware of it. In the first few hours after your last meal, the body continues to rely on glucose circulating in the bloodstream as its primary source of energy, which is why most people feel relatively normal during this phase. Glucose comes directly from the carbohydrates you've recently eaten, and it fuels essential functions like brain activity, muscle movement, and organ performance. According to well-established sources such as the Mayo Clinic and the NHS, the body prioritizes maintaining stable blood sugar levels, so it uses this readily available fuel before switching to stored reserves. This explains why, in the early stage of not eating, there is often no immediate sense of weakness or fatigue. Instead, Many people report steady focus, stable mood, and even a sense of normal productivity because the body is still operating within its usual metabolic rhythm. During this time, insulin, the hormone responsible for helping cells absorb glucose, remains active but gradually begins to decrease as no new food is consumed. This slow decline is a key part of the transition process, signaling to the body that it will soon need to access stored energy. Harvard Health and the Cleveland Clinic explain that this shift is not sudden or extreme. Rather, it is a controlled and adaptive response that allows the body to maintain balance. The liver plays a central role here by regulating blood glucose levels and ensuring that the brain, which depends heavily on glucose, continues to function properly. This internal regulation is why most people don't notice dramatic changes in the first few hours. One of the most important insights from this phase is how strongly eating behavior is tied to habit rather than actual energy needs. Many people feel the urge to eat not because their body requires fuel, but because they are used to eating at certain times, such as breakfast, lunch, or snacks in between. Research available through PubMed indicates that hunger is influenced by hormonal signals like ghrelin, which follows a daily rhythm based on routine. This means hunger can appear at expected meal times and then fade if not immediately acted upon. Understanding this can help individuals distinguish between true physiological hunger and conditioned responses. A common mistake during this stage is constant snacking, which prevents the body from ever moving beyond this glucose-dependent phase. When food is consumed frequently, insulin levels remain elevated, and the body does not get the opportunity to tap into stored energy. Instead of relying on a steady cycle of eating, spacing out meals, and allowing short gaps without food can help the body regulate energy use more efficiently. This doesn't mean restricting food unnecessarily, but rather becoming more intentional about when and why you eat. Hydration also plays a subtle but important role during this phase. Sometimes, what feels like hunger is actually mild dehydration, and drinking water can help stabilize how you feel. The CDC emphasizes the importance of proper hydration for overall bodily function, including energy levels and cognitive performance. By staying hydrated, individuals can better interpret their body's signals and avoid unnecessary discomfort. Overall, the first few hours highlight how stable and adaptable the body is when using glucose as its main fuel source, while also revealing how much of our eating behavior is driven by routine rather than real need. Around 6 to 12 hours after the last meal, the body begins transitioning from relying primarily on circulating glucose to tapping into glycogen, the stored form of glucose found in the liver and muscles. This phase is often referred to as the glycogen phase, and it represents the body's first step toward using reserve energy when food intake stops. According to research and guidance from the Cleveland Clinic and the National Institutes of Health, NIH, glycogen acts like a backup energy supply, ensuring that the body maintains stable blood sugar levels and continues to power vital functions. Glycogen is stored in limited amounts, so during this period, the body carefully balances usage to prevent any sudden drop in energy. This explains why many people still feel alert and functional during these hours, even as their stomachs begin signaling mild hunger waves. During the glycogen phase, insulin levels continue to drop gradually, signaling to the body that it should start preparing alternative fuel systems. Harvard Health points out that this is a natural process and part of the body's evolutionary adaptation to periods of low food availability. What often surprises people is that hunger during this phase comes in intermittent waves rather than constant signals. These waves are regulated by hormones such as ghrelin, which peaks and dips throughout the day, often corresponding with habitual eating patterns. Many individuals mistakenly interpret these signals as urgent or dangerous, which can lead to premature snacking and breaking the natural energy shift. Instead, recognizing that these waves are temporary and manageable helps maintain both physical comfort and mental clarity during fasting or extended periods without food. This stage also reveals a common behavioral pattern. The body's response to hunger is often more psychological than physiological. PubMed research emphasizes that routine, environment, and habit strongly influence perceived hunger. People accustomed to eating every few hours may feel more intense signals, not because their energy stores are depleted, but because the brain expects food at certain times. By observing these sensations without immediately reacting, individuals can build a more mindful approach to eating and distinguish between true nutritional need and conditioned responses. This insight is particularly valuable for lifestyle habits, as it allows better control over food choices and portion sizes, even outside of fasting periods. Many people make the mistake of attempting strenuous activity during this glycogen phase, expecting the body to respond in the same way it does when fully fueled. This can result in temporary fatigue or discomfort. Harvard Health and Mayo Clinic guidance suggest lighter movement, such as walking or gentle stretching, to keep energy expenditure manageable while allowing the body to adapt to changing fuel sources. This phase is less about pushing limits and more about observing how the body naturally adjusts. Adequate hydration remains critical, as water supports metabolic processes and can help mitigate minor discomforts like mild headaches or fatigue that some individuals experience. Another important aspect of this phase is mental clarity. Some people report feeling more focused or alert than during a typical eating routine, likely due to more stable blood sugar levels as glycogen is gradually utilized. Understanding this can shift perspectives on hunger and energy management, highlighting that periods without food are not inherently harmful. The key, according to Cleveland Clinic guidance, is to approach the glycogen phase with awareness, allowing the body to transition gradually without forcing extreme activity or excessive food intake. Recognizing this adaptive process sets the stage for the next metabolic shift, where the body begins using fat as a more prominent fuel source. Between 12 and 16 hours after the last meal, the body enters what can be described as the metabolic shift phase, where it begins to increasingly rely on fat as an energy source. During the earlier glycogen phase, the liver's glycogen stores supply the body with glucose, but these stores are limited and gradually deplete as the hours pass. According to Harvard Health and research published by PubMed, once glycogen levels start dropping, the body naturally shifts toward mobilizing fat stores, breaking them down into fatty acids and ketone bodies to fuel both physical activity and brain function. This shift is not sudden or extreme. It happens gradually and is part of the body's designed adaptability. Many people expect sudden weakness or fatigue at this stage, but in reality, energy levels often stabilize or even improve slightly as the body becomes more efficient at using these alternative fuels. During this metabolic shift, hormonal changes play a crucial role. Insulin continues to decline, which helps facilitate fat mobilization, while hormones like glucagon and adrenaline increase to signal energy availability from fat stores. The Cleveland Clinic emphasizes that this phase supports metabolic flexibility, which is the body's ability to switch between fuel sources depending on availability. This is an important concept because it explains why some people experience heightened mental clarity or steady energy during this stage of fasting. Rather than a sign of stress or depletion, these sensations indicate the body is effectively adapting to limited food intake. It also highlights a common misconception. Many assume that using fat as fuel is harmful or extreme, when in fact it is a normal physiological response that has been observed across healthy adults. One key aspect of this phase is recognizing how lifestyle factors influence the experience. Physical activity, stress, and sleep all affect how efficiently the body shifts to fat metabolism. For example, intense exercise can temporarily raise energy demands and make the transition feel harder, whereas light activity like walking, stretching, or gentle yoga supports the shift without causing undue fatigue. The Mayo Clinic notes that staying hydrated during this period is essential because water supports fat metabolism and helps prevent common discomforts such as headaches or dizziness. This stage also exposes a behavioral pattern that many people overlook, eating in response to mild hunger rather than genuine energy needs. PubMed studies suggest that the body's hunger signals during this phase are often influenced more by habit and environmental cues than by actual depletion of calories. So mindful observation is key to navigating the metabolic shift smoothly. Another significant feature of this phase is mental and emotional response. Some individuals report a sense of calm or heightened focus, which contrast with the anxiety often associated with skipping meals. This is partially explained by the stabilization of blood sugar levels, as the body moves away from the frequent peaks and crashes caused by regular meal consumption. Harvard Health supports this observation, noting that metabolic adaptation can enhance cognitive clarity in some people. At the same time, many make the mistake of pushing too hard physically or mentally, expecting the body to function exactly as it would after a full meal. Instead, pacing oneself, resting when needed, and maintaining a light daily routine ensures that the metabolic shift occurs without unnecessary strain. This stage also introduces subtle lessons about eating patterns and awareness. By observing how the body uses fat for energy, people gain insight into the difference between habitual hunger and actual fuel needs. It encourages mindfulness in both fasting and everyday nutrition practices. Recognizing this adaptive process prepares the individual for the next stage, where these changes continue to deepen, shaping energy, mental clarity, and overall awareness of the body's natural rhythms. Harvard Health and the NIH consistently emphasize that such short-term fasting experiences are not about extreme restriction, but rather understanding how the body naturally regulates energy and adapts to changing fuel availability. As the fast extends from 16 to 24 hours, the body enters a phase of deeper adaptation, where fat becomes a primary energy source and metabolic processes continue to adjust to the absence of new food intake. During this period, the liver increasingly converts stored fat into ketones, which can serve as fuel for both the brain and muscles. According to research highlighted by the World Health Organization, WHO, and the National Institutes of Health, NIH, this is a normal physiological process and part of the body's built-in mechanisms to maintain energy balance during short-term fasting. Many people expect constant hunger or fatigue at this stage, but in reality, hunger often occurs in brief waves that come and go, reflecting hormonal rhythms rather than actual energy depletion. This phase reveals how efficiently the body can maintain function even when external energy sources are temporarily absent, highlighting a natural resilience that is often underappreciated. Hormonal regulation is particularly significant during this stage. Insulin levels remain low, promoting continued fat mobilization, while glucagon and adrenaline help maintain stable blood sugar and energy availability. Harvard Health explains that these shifts enable the body to operate effectively on alternative fuels, demonstrating metabolic flexibility, which is the ability to switch between glucose and fat depending on availability. One interesting observation during this period is the mental clarity that some individuals report. With glucose levels stabilizing and the body efficiently using ketones, the mind can feel sharper and more focused compared to the typical highs and lows associated with frequent meals. This contrasts with the common expectation that skipping meals automatically leads to fatigue or brain fog, illustrating that physiological responses are more nuanced than many assume. A critical aspect of this stage is understanding common behavioral mistakes. Some individuals respond to intermittent hunger waves by consuming high-calorie or heavily processed foods immediately, which can create discomfort or disrupt the natural metabolic processes that have been occurring. The Mayo Clinic and PubMed emphasize that gradual reintroduction of food and mindful attention to choices is essential for a smooth transition. Observing how the body feels, staying hydrated, and avoiding overcompensation with rich foods allows the adaptive benefits of the fast to be experienced without unnecessary stress on digestion or metabolism. The experience also encourages greater awareness of habitual eating patterns, showing how often food consumption is driven by routine rather than true energy requirements. Hydration continues to be a key factor in this phase. Drinking water supports metabolic processes, helps prevent minor symptoms like headaches or light fatigue, and maintains electrolyte balance. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, note that adequate fluid intake is essential for supporting both cognitive and physical performance, especially when food intake is temporarily paused. Additionally, movement during this stage should remain light and intentional. Gentle walking, stretching, or mindful activity supports circulation and energy regulation without placing excessive demands on a body that is already adapting to a new fuel source. This approach contrasts with common mistakes, such as attempting high-intensity workouts during fasting, which can lead to unnecessary strain and discomfort. Psychologically, the deeper adaptation phase teaches awareness and patience. By observing hunger signals, mental clarity, and energy levels, individuals can develop a more mindful relationship with food. PubMed research highlights that short-term fasting can provide insight into the difference between habitual hunger and actual nutritional need, promoting intentional eating habits that extend beyond the fast itself. This phase is not about restriction, but about understanding how the body naturally maintains balance, highlighting lessons in energy management, self-awareness, and metabolic resilience. It prepares the body and mind for the eventual reintroduction of food, demonstrating that the process of fasting is as much an exercise in observation and discipline as it is in nutrition. When it came time to break the fast after 24 hours, the body responded in noticeable and insightful ways, reflecting the adaptations that had occurred during the previous hours. The digestive system, which had been relatively inactive, suddenly began processing food again, and flavors felt more vivid, textures more pronounced, and overall sensations of eating were heightened. According to Harvard Health and guidance from the NHS, this is a natural response because the digestive system becomes more sensitive after a short period without food, making the first few bites more noticeable and sometimes more satisfying. However, a critical mistake many people make at this stage is eating too quickly or choosing heavy, processed, or high-calorie foods immediately. Doing so can overwhelm digestion, cause discomfort, and negate the subtle benefits gained from the fasting period. Instead, introducing food gradually, with balanced and simple choices, supports the body's return to normal metabolic activity without unnecessary strain. During the post-fast period, it is important to continue mindful awareness of hunger cues and energy levels. Many of the sensations experienced during fasting are influenced by routine, hormones, and psychological factors, as highlighted by research available through PubMed. The body often sends hunger signals that reflect habit more than true caloric need. By observing these signals carefully, individuals can avoid overeating and can reinforce a healthier relationship with food, understanding the difference between physiological hunger and habitual or emotional cravings. This stage also emphasizes the value of intentional eating, focusing on nutrient-rich foods, eating slowly, and paying attention to satiety cues. Harvard Health underscores that this approach can support better digestion, stable energy, and long-term metabolic balance. Another key lesson from breaking a fast is the importance of hydration. Even after reintroducing food, maintaining adequate fluid intake remains essential. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) note that water supports digestion, nutrient transport, and overall energy levels. It also helps prevent mild symptoms such as headaches, fatigue, or dizziness, which some people may experience after a period without food. Rehydration, combined with gradual and balanced refeeding, ensures the body transitions smoothly from fasting metabolism back to normal dietary patterns, minimizing discomfort and optimizing energy utilization. This stage also highlights the psychological and behavioral benefits of fasting. During the fast, individuals often become more aware of how frequently they eat out of habit rather than necessity. PubMed research emphasizes that these insights can lead to lasting changes in eating behavior, promoting more intentional, mindful approaches to daily nutrition. Breaking the fast mindfully reinforces this awareness, allowing individuals to make conscious choices about what and how much they consume, rather than simply responding impulsively to hunger signals. This perspective helps cultivate a healthier relationship with food over time. It is crucial to note that fasting, even short-term, is not appropriate for everyone. The NIH and Harvard Health both stress that people with certain medical conditions, those taking specific medications, or individuals with a history of disordered eating should avoid fasting unless under professional supervision. While short-term fasting can provide insight into metabolism and hunger regulation, it should never be undertaken without considering individual health needs and safety. Observing this principle ensures that the experience remains safe and beneficial rather than risky or harmful. Finally, the post-fast period teaches that the lessons from fasting extend beyond the physical experience. It's not merely about skipping meals, it's about gaining insight into one's own metabolism, energy patterns, and habitual behaviors. By approaching food with mindfulness, understanding hunger signals, staying hydrated, and pacing intake thoughtfully, the body and mind can integrate these lessons into everyday nutrition and lifestyle habits. institutions such as the Mayo Clinic, NIH, and who emphasize that this approach encourages a balanced, informed, and safe interaction